So this is how I prep my crease fly bank. So this is 2mm foam that's readily available. To make the blank, I've actually used River Road Creations crease fly cutter. Great little thing. I've actually had this one for several years. It's fairly blunt now, so we'll have to change it, but at some stage. But it's still going strong. So the size is the largest one that they do. I find that suitable for 4.0 SL12s and or 3.0 SA 270 Ahrexes. It's they're the best size that I find for these sort of things, or for the large at least. And then obviously as you go down in size of hook, you'll have to go scale down on the crease fly body as well, but they do a set of 3. You can also buy them individually in some places as well. Now what you can see here is 2 templates that I use for spray jobs. One would be the chevrons and the other would be the hackles, the spots that I use for different designs. I'm just using them to lay down straight lines for my marker pens to be sprayed on. So I use the Pro markers. I find them really good. They're nice and bright, thousands of different colours that you can get. Copic are also good. I don't have a Copic, and the reason I don't have a Copic is because I have about 1,000 Pro markers and it's going to cost me a packet to replace them. Now the sprayer that I use is a manual sprayer. It's from a brand called We Are. Basically just load the marker pen in, squeeze it, and the ink comes out. It's not good for very much detail, but for stenciling and that sort of thing, it's actually pretty darn good. So we're going to do a chartreuse and blue, so a blue fading into our chartreuse back. So once it's loaded in, just line up the tips, start squeezing, and it starts squirting the ink. And you just have to make sure you get all the sides in. Swap out the blue. Now, as I said earlier, or may not have said earlier, the reason I'm spray painting this now is because when it comes to actually doing the foiling, you need the fly to be completely, the ink on the fly to be completely dry, because if it isn't, it's gonna bleed quite badly. So that's it basically. So just put the lids back on here. So lift these off. So as you can see, it leaves nice, neat lines. Now that's going to be a basis for our fly later. Now, I was saying about the chevrons. If you want chevrons like this tan guy here, you would lay down the template first. Now I had this template made for me by my loving brother. He's cut it out of Perspex for me with one of his fancy machines. But you would do the chevrons first, and once the chevrons are sprayed in, you would line up your template to the edges of the chevrons, give it a light spray paint over, and then remove it as well, and that will give you that sort of template. Now these templates, you can make them yourself out of card or paper if you're handy with a pair of scissors or knife. Either. You can also spray paint this once you've actually attached the body to the fly as well. But I'll say these are the videos of how I do it, so I'm going to show you how I do it. So hook wise, we're going to use 3.0 SA 270 from Ahrex. Thread will be the Danville's 210 flat waxed, which I got loaded onto my Norvice bobbin. And then materials in the order that we're going to tie them in. You've got the white bucktail, chartreuse bucktail, some pearl flash, I don't know the brand, but I've got loads of it from years ago. And then I've got a couple of nice chartreuse hackles, nice blue saddle hackles, some lateral scale, only 2 strands, blue bucktail, white chenille, ultra chenille that I used to bulk up with the bulk up the shank of the hook, give a little bit more surface area for the super glue to soak into. And then you got the little foam bung. This is 4mm foam that I've cut a little rectangle out of, and then obviously the foam crease fly bank. But you're going to start with a base of thread. There we go. Leave the first 3 or 4 mils of the shank free, because that's going, well, you don't have to, but it just looks a little bit neater. First off, a little base of bucktail. Pull out the longer or the short little bits. Even out the tips just by pulling those longer fibers out, laying them back down, and then trim it off. Couple of wraps. Now you want to keep this all on top of the shank. You don't want it to spread too far down the sides. And then it's your chartreuse, bucktail. Again, just pull out the short a little bit, line up the tips. This one isn't too bad. Line up the tips like that, lay them back down again. Lay it down. Now the chartreuse, you would want it to go a little bit past the white tips. Now altogether it's only about 2 lengths of the shank, or 2 lengths of the hook. You don't need to go too long on these. And again, it's all tied on top of the shank. I'll just get my glue there. Oops. Too much. Right, then it's your pearl flash. Again, when you take it out the hank, it's going to have a straight edge, so you just, where you cut it, so you just tweak it out so they're a little bit tapered. And then again, I like to taper it when I tie it in, so it's all going on top of the shank, but I'm going to tie 40% to the front, 60% to the back, so that when I wrap it over, all the tips are kind of uneven on the back there. So you just wrap it around your thread, slide it up the thread onto the top of the shank, a couple of wraps just to tidy it up. Your hackles go in at the same time, the blue and the chartreuse. And again, you don't have to worry too much about how neat these are, because if they're going a little bit skew, doesn't matter, because the foam is actually going to come over the top of those and hold them all in place. So you just line the 2 up. I've already pre-pulled off the fluff off these just to speed up the video. Lay them down. 2 loose wraps. And you can see I've slightly tented those on the back there. Similar to the kinky muddler video. Kinky muddler fly, sorry, yeah, that I did on Facebook a while ago. That's your bare bones of your tail almost done there. A couple of strands of lateral scale, again wrapped around the bobbin, and these are going to go on either side of the blue saddles. There we go, so that the tips end pretty much bang on the end of the blue saddles. Now the blue bucktail. Again, this will be slightly shorter now than the others. It's only about 1.5 lengths of the hook shank. Neaten it up. And again, the blue, you're going to want to spread it with your thumbnail just on the sort of top half of the shank so that it comes down around the saddles a bit, just like so. Wrap that down. Now, one of the tricks that I learned is if you try and glue foam onto this, there's not much surface area on the front here, so I started doubling up ultra chenille. You can use any chenille, I just happen to have a lot of ultra chenille because I do a lot of flexo crabs. I just loosely wrap it along the material like so, trim off the butt ends, then I just layer it back, loose wraps, pull it forward. You basically just want to be stacking this up on the fly. Bring it forward, keep it closed, and you tie it off. Now basically what this does is it just gives more surface area for the super glue when I'm putting my foam spreader in there that holds the body open. Gives it more surface area to glue onto, makes the fly a little bit more durable. Right, to do that you just basically dab your super glue all on the chenille underneath the body. Then you take your little foam bung, stick it underneath, force it up, make sure it's tight. Now you do need to just move your materials around a bit on the tail. You probably can't see it there because my fat fingers are in the way, but I'm just making sure that everything is still where I want it to be. And then I have a big crocodile clip. As you can see in the front there's a bit of a gap, so I use a crocodile clip, big ass paper clip, and I squeeze that closed. Just make sure that it's nice and straight. I have to just leave that to press there for a couple of minutes while it dries. You can even leave it back in the vise. Right, so that should be dry now. So you just take the clip off, hold it tight. Now you need to obviously cut off the excess. Make sure again that you're cutting it off parallel to the hook shank, and you'd want about 1 centimetre for this size, about 1 centimetre's worth of foam from the bottom to the top. Now you will cut off a bit of the bucktail probably when you do this, but that's fine. There we go. So that's it there. You take your scissors and just cut the sharp edge off on both sides, like so. Just off that back corner there. Again, this is when you fold your foam over. It just makes the life a little bit easier, it gives a better profile than that sharp edge. Right, it's ready to go back in the vise. Right, so now that's dry, it's all cut to shape. This is the tricky bit. So my Crease fly bank, I actually forgot to cut out the little V shape at the back there, and that again just helps when you fold it over. It just neatens up the fly and stops this tail end flaring when you don't cut it and glue it down. Now this is the trickiest bit really. You need to get the edge of the front edge to line up with the eye of the end of the eye of the hook, but you also need to make sure that it's centered so that when you fold it over it's even on either side. Don't know if you can see that, it's even on either side of the even on either side of the hook, because you don't want it to spin in the water. Now you can trim it after you've glued it as well, but it never looks as neat. So what I do is I often just press the foam into the bottom of this, and it leaves I don't know if you can see it there, but it leaves a bit of an indentation. Once you've got your line, glue the top first, and you just line up. You just need to shift the light over a little bit. Line up that indentation again. It's not quite right. You don't get it. Okay, that's much better. Right, press it. Now I'm pushing quite firmly underneath the body and pushing it up onto this foam just to make sure it sticks. Let me check. That's looking pretty good. And a little droplet of glue just to the edge. Rub it into the middle. Now the reason I'm not adding glue to the actual spreader in the middle is if you add glue to that, you tend to put it all over the place, but the foam doesn't actually go everywhere. It only goes in certain spots. And you just fold the two of them up and lightly press. Now you do have to hold it until it sets. It doesn't take long, and then I'd recommend giving it 10 or 15 minutes just to dry, because as you squeeze, a little bit of excess glue will come out the edges a bit, like so. So that's your bare bones of the body done. Leave that to dry for a few minutes. It's actually not looking too bad, so we can get down to the foiling. So that's the thing. Now you could stick eyes onto this straight away. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think the foil adds anything but a bit of eye candy for the fisherman. I like to do it because I think it looks cool. Does it work better? I don't know. Don't know. So this is a little foiling gloop. Just comes in a little bottle, like as if you're going to do your nails. And again, what you have to do is paint it on as if you're doing your nails. You just want to make sure that it goes on nice and even. There's no gaps missing. Now this is why I was saying it's quite important to wait for the ink to dry 100% when you're spray painting these things, because if you leave it too long, if you do it too soon, you'll end up having multicolored. Okay, that's nice and even. Just a little split there. Right, that's on there nice and even. Now you do have to wait for this to be 100% dry before you put the foiling on. If it's not, it'll just end up a big mess. So yeah, depending on how hot it is, on the humidity, it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to dry. But in the interest of speeding this up, I am going to go and use my wife's hairdryer. So I'll be back in a second. Alright, so hairdryer did the job. I dried it quite quickly. So this is transfer foil. So I use the holographic pearl. I don't know if you can see it blinking in the light there, and also the fish scale. It's pretty straightforward. It's shiny side up, dull side down. For the belly, I just take one small piece. You only need about 5 centimeters of it. You cut it down the middle, and you just lay it on the white, of the Crease 5 blank, like so. Now you leave that on. Then you take a fish scale. It's got 2 little bits. I like to make sure that the little inner fish scale is facing forward. And you lay it on the top like that. Press it down. Back my Stanley knife. And just rub it. Make sure that you get all the pieces. Once you're 100% sure that you're happy that that's all stuck, you start peeling it off. Anything that hasn't stuck, you just go back, rub it over. And there we go. That's your top done. Peel off the bellies. And that's the foiling done. It's pretty straightforward. Again, sticking on some pro eyes here. I like quite big eyes personally on my flies. I know some folks don't. I tend to use oversized eyes. And just pop them down, and that is pretty much done. Now I'm going to coat it with Gorilla Glue, Gorilla Glue Clear. I just have to grab it. Right, so I'm going to use Gorilla Glue Clear to seal off the head. Use a little paintbrush. Just lash it on. To get a good goop of it down into the cavity there. Right, once you've got a load on, you can start spreading it. Make sure you seal off the edges of the foam nicely. Just pull that out the way. Pull the tail out, just so that you can get it into the edges. Now the reason I like Gorilla Glue for this is that it dries really well, stays crystal clear when it does dry, but it also is flexible. You can also use 5-minute epoxy as well. Tends to give it a really hard edge. And yeah, done. Leave that to dry and you're good to go. Now this will take about 2 hours to fully dry before you can actually touch it, so you will need to put it into an epoxy toner to keep it even. If not, it doesn't actually run that badly, so you could just leave it in the vise or peg it into something to keep it upright. But yeah, that's about it really. That's your fly done. Just needs to dry. Just make sure that it's right in to that nose there as well. That's it. Good to go. Thanks for watching, guys. You can see the great sparkle.